Hey guys, welcome to Peak Health Revolution. My name is Logan Grundy, and today I'm going to take you through a full body CARS routine, so controlled articular rotations, which basically means that we're going to challenge our joints to make the biggest circle or range of motion that we can with that joint. So we're going to go head to toe with that, then finish off with a couple just more static stretches that are really going to open up our hips. So we're going to start with our neck. This is going to take us about 15 minutes to run through. What we're going to do is a nice big slow circle. So we're not just thinking like throw your head in a circle. What we're really thinking is how low and deep can I get it? How far off to the side? And like almost if someone put a Sharpie on the top of your head and you were drawing on your ceiling, how big of a circle can you make with that? And then this is basically, a lot of the times what happens with our joints is because we're not taking them through full ranges very often, they just kind of start to think, hey, we don't need that. And we kind of lose it a little bit. So by taking ourselves through these full ranges of motion again, we are just kind of reminding our body that, hey, you actually have access to all of this, and it might be beneficial to go through it from time to time. And what you'll notice, especially when we get down to our hips, some of you might find we're switching to the other direction here now with the neck. Some of you guys might find down with our hips especially is where you see it is you might actually even get muscles cramping a little bit on you. And this is a good indication that like those muscles aren't used to working hard to get you up into those positions, and they're not used to contracting in the way that you're making them to get into those ranges, which is something that we should be doing on a more regular basis. So as we go through it, if you're like, oh man, I'm getting cramps, just shake your leg out or whatever you need to do, and then return to it, but realize that that's a good sign of this is something I should probably be doing a little more often. So we're just about to finish up the neck here. We'll go one more. Good. Now we're going to switch to our shoulder, which gets a little more complicated. What you're going to do, start with your palm facing forward and come in across your body a little bit. We're going to lift up. At some point you're going to hit a point where you can't really go any further up. You're going to start rotating your hand around, and you're still trying to draw the biggest circle you can. So continually rotating that shoulder, that hand as much as you can until basically now I could hold a cup of soup or something here, and then I'm bringing it all the way back down. And then same thing coming back that other way. My hand's now facing outwards. You're going to come back up and around. You're going to hit a point where you just can't get any higher. That's when you're going to switch it around and start rotating that palm back in. Again, I could hold a bowl of soup here and coming down. So that's what it's looking like. And now what you're trying to do is how big of a circle can I draw there? If you want to, you could go walk up to your wall and press in against that. So these ones, anyone who works at a desk, this one and the next one we're going to do are going to be so good for you if you just start plugging these in throughout your day. Of like, hey, every hour, every 3 hours if we're being more realistic, like coffee break, lunch break, coffee break, something like that. Getting some of these in will make a huge difference for you. Switch over to that other arm. And the reason why they'll make a big difference is because most of the day you're not really moving that shoulder, you're just in that kind of same position all day. And this takes your shoulder through a really full range of motion, breaks that sequence. So that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. Is everyone's like, oh, sitting's so bad. Not necessarily the case. Sitting's not bad, standing's not bad. No position is bad per se. Spending a lot of time in any given position is what's bad for us. If I sit down, if I haven't sat in all day long, it's probably good for me to sit down in that nice kind of 90 degrees. Traditionally what we see is like a bad position. But if I spend all day there, obviously not so good for us. So let's do the next one. Basically, instead of moving our whole arm, now we're just going to move from the shoulders. So we're shrugging up as high as we can, coming back as high as we can and still staying high, coming down as low as we can, and think about that shoulder blade sticking to the ribs nice and tight, and then we're going to roll it forward, still staying down and low, come up high, and just repeat that. At first, this might look like a big box to you. That's a good way to think about it, is like hitting those four kind of corners of that box. And then over time, you can start making that also almost like a circle more than a box, and a little more fluid through that movement. And now we're going to reverse it, coming back the other way, going, I don't know, forwards, if you will. Another really good one, if you're in front of a computer screen all day, is doing these two to break up what's happening at that shoulder. Next one, what we're going to do is kind of a combination of two moves that I've decided to put together because I really like how they flow into each other. One is the Jefferson curl, where basically we're going to slowly curl our body over to go down to touch our toes, but we're going to try and do it one little vertebrae at a time instead of just a big clunky movement. And then we're going to come up into like kind of a cactus pose. So I'll show you what that looks like. We're going to start, think about one little vertebrae moving at a time, like little tiny segments of your spine curling over all the way from your neck down to basically your butt, so end of your spine. So it's going to be pretty slow looking because you're trying to do it one vertebrae at a time. Another good technique here is to think about like each little segment of your spine, that's your little puppet on a string, and you're just changing what piece of your spine you're hanging from that string on, and you're going nice and slow. If you find you have one particular area that's very sore and tender, or really stiff and you have trouble moving through there, what you can do is stop in that area and spend some extra time working through that particular area. And I'm heading back the other way, and just work, just kind of moving in and out of that area, and then continue on. Another option, if you have some time, is you just do one of these and you figure out where on my back am I the most stiff, and you grab your foam roller. Then once we get up to the top, we're just kind of continue right up, reach for the sky, come down, arching your back the other way, open up quickly, come back up, drop those hands down, and go into your next one. Yeah, if you have the time, grab your foam roller and just roll out that stiffest segment of your spine. and then come back to this and try it again and see, hey, am I less stiff through there? Yes or no? And that will tell you that, hey, what I'm doing is actually benefiting me with that foam roller. And doing this, I'm less stiff now. This is awesome. I'm going to do this more regularly. What you guys are probably going to find is that each one of these that you guys are doing, you should be able to reach a little bit lower. So for me right now, it's morning. So this is the first time I've done this morning. So my very first one there didn't get a whole bunch of movement out of it. Didn't get all that deep into it. But as even already getting into the second one here, we're already starting to notice spine's waking up, muscles are waking up, and I'm able to get down further and further. So usually I can get a good couple fingers onto the ground here. That first one I didn't even touch the ground. Second one I just touched down, and this one we might be able to get a good couple fingers onto the ground. So we'll do 3 of these. This will be our last one. Working our way up nice and slowly. Same idea. Trying to move one little vertebrae at a time on your way up. Then you're reaching for the sky one last time. And we're going to go back down onto our hands and our knees. This one gets a little complicated, just like the shoulder one, so we'll go through the first one a little bit slow. You know, lift up your right leg, bring that hip up as high as you can, hold it there for a second, then you're going to lift it out to the side like your dog peeing on a fire hydrant. Start bringing it back and start rotating as you do to get to here, and you're trying to lift this leg up as high as you can without actually arching and breaking through the lower back, because we're not trying to work that lower back and the spine. We're just trying to work through our hips. So keeping this like flat tabletop position and just as high as you can get from there, and then you're going to work your way back around. So kind of 3 positions, and you're transitioning between them. So this frontward position where you're up as high as you can go, out to that kind of dog peeing position, and then to this final one where you're trying to get that leg up as high as you can without breaking through your back. And we'll do a couple more of these. So you guys, this is where I was saying, if you haven't challenged your hips range of motion in a while and push to those actual like endpoints, you might feel at that back position that your hamstring wants to cramp, or the side position that your glute wants to cramp. You might even feel at this front one your hip flexors getting a little mad at you. And we'll switch over to this other side. Up, out, and around. So you guys can also do this one standing if you want to. This is just a little bit easier because it takes the balance component out of it for you, which is nice. One more here. You probably feel your glutes working pretty hard at this point. And now you get to lay back on them and relax for a second. What you're going to do now, we're going to do our ankle. So you're going to sweep your leg, or your arm under, lift your leg up and just kind of grab it, hold it. And now, as with what we have been with everything else, you're just trying to draw as nice and big a circles as you can. Now we'll switch it around the other way. So just even doing like 15 minutes a day of mobility stuff, it's going to make a huge difference for you. And it's nice to go through these full routines, but because they kind of teach you a whole bunch of these things, but then once you got a bunch of them in your toolbox, what you actually want to do, we'll switch legs here, is just spend your time focusing on the areas that you notice the most. So if you have really stiff ankles, spend more time doing this. If it's you got lower back pain and stiff hips, spend more time doing the hip stuff. It's all upper body for you, spend more time doing the upper body stuff. It's nothing saying that you have to go through this whole routine or spend the same amount of time on it, right? So if you're switching around the other way here, if your neck and shoulders are the problem, do twice as much up there, spend twice as much time up there, and spend less time on the other stuff. It's not going to hurt you to spend more time in one area and less in the other. So focus in on the areas that are bugging you the most. So now we are going to go to the couch stretch. So I have this because it's easy to demonstrate for you guys, but using a chair, a stool like this, or where the name comes from, even a couch, what you want to do is get your leg up here. So if you want to start down low here and come up, and if you feel a stretch down here, great, hang out down here. If you feel a stretch here, great, hang out here. If you can get all the way up to here, that's great, but don't think that you have to get up to here to get the best results from it. If it pulls earlier than that, just do that, because you're going to compensate through your hips and your back and stuff up here if you can actually get up to there. So if you feel a pull here, just stay here and hang out and feel that stretch through your entire quad. If this is even hard for you, then all you want to do is just come into a nice lunge position and think about rotating those hips under and tucking them under, and that in itself should give you a stretch through the front of this leg. And then you just hang out into that for a minute, 2 minutes, and then go over, do the other side. Now if you can get up onto something a little more advanced, then you want to do that. So a lot of the times I'll start kind of low here, and then over time, as I go through it, I'll get higher and higher. We're just gonna hang out here with this one on each side for about a minute. But my suggestion to you guys would be spend 2 to 3 minutes of this each leg for the best results, because a lot of us are sitting a lot. If we spend 2 to 3 minutes every day for like a month doing this, you wouldn't believe what it's going to do for any hip or low back issues that you have, just by stretching out our quad and our hip flexors with this stretch. So think about like you're spending, I don't know, 8 hours sitting at a desk or sitting with a flexed hip, and now we're getting a chance to straighten that hip out. So basically, the more time we can spend here, the better it's going to be for us. We'll switch over, do the other side, but this would be a great time for you guys to pause the video and spend more time in that particular position. And an awesome thing you can do with this one is once you can comfortably find a position you can kind of comfortably hang out in, once you've found that, what you want to do is think about squeezing this glute as hard as you can and then relaxing it and trying to go deeper into the stretch. So I will take a normal inhale, I'll hold it for a couple seconds, and I'll really squeeze through that glute and try and open up that hip. And then on my exhale, nice long exhale, and just trying to relax into it a little bit more. So it'll be like inhale, squeeze and hold, exhale, relaxing into it a little bit. So I'll usually do like about a 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, and about a 6-second exhale. So a little bit longer exhale, and just squeeze and hold it, relax into it, squeeze and hold, relax into it. And that will open things up that much faster. It'll also be great because you're going to be squeezing through your glute, helping activate your glutes a little bit more. It's going to help you a ton. So that's both legs here. What we'll do now, finish off with just a pigeon pose. So basically sliding this leg under and then trying to sit back into it. You could stay high like this up here, or you can sink down into it. Totally your preference on which one you do. Don't worry about getting that hip totally flat. If you need to stick a little block under this hip or just let it sit up, that's fine. As you can tell, my hip mobility, this pigeon's always been a tough one for me, so I can't sit into it the same way that you see some people sit into it, and that's fine. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. Just sit into it where you get the stretch, and that's plenty good enough. If you have a lot of trouble doing this, what you can do is basically like an elevated version. So you would go put that leg on, say, that stool that I have. I'll show you in a minute here what that looks like on the other side, but that's one thing that you can do, is do like an elevated version. Or if you're doing it in the gym, doing it on an incline bench can be really helpful as well. It really lets you like play with that movement and the depths that you can hit and pulling yourself around a little bit with that bench. So if you have trouble getting into that one, what you can do is basically, this might be too small, but basically sit into something like this. The bed is actually great if you have a bed that's somewhere between about here and here, just getting onto that. But you can see this is a little bit easier. Ideally it'd be a bit bigger, covering off my whole lower leg there, but then I can lean over it or come back out of it. So that's a great variation that you can use too if you want, if that's something that's a little easier for you to get into. And then it's nice because you can kind of pull on this stool to help pull you over and get a nice stretch through there. And you can either hang out in one position, or you can kind of oscillate in and out of it and see like, where am I stickiest, and work in and out of that. But I definitely would suggest you guys spend a little bit more time on these last two. Spend 2 to 3 minutes a day working on those two, and you're going to notice a massive difference with it. That's our full routine for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're feeling a little bit more open.